Good day to you, beloved. This is the Remnant Seed Bible Study channel. Welcome. Today's subject is the Queen of Heaven, Easter, Ishtar, Ashtoreth. I want to talk to you a little bit about the etymology of the word Easter itself, and then also the words and deeds that are associated with it. Basically, when you say the word Easter, it includes all of the terminology used back in the Old Testament for that of grove worship and the worship of other gods. And the Queen of Heaven, she's a Phoenician love goddess, basically the goddess of fertility. And it's funny how the sexual connotations of the word have entered into the high holy day of Christianity. It's really sad to see that every year this comes up. It just irritates me to no end. I can just, our Father, there's certain things I think that he winks at, but there's other things that he's just really getting fed up with. And I could just feel this in my spirit. So anyway, I try to get through this. This is the year of our Lord 2022, and it is April 15th, and this is what the modern Christianity calls Good Friday. Okay, now why would the translators translate pashca to Passover 28 times in the New Testament? It's written a total of 28 times, and each and every time the word Passover, the English word Passover, is taken from the Greek word pashca, except for one time, and that's Acts 12:4, and it was translated to Easter there from the same word. Now you have to ask yourself, why did they do this? Who was in charge of this? And how did it get into the modern King James Bible? And that's a mystery. I can't answer that, but I can most likely say it's intentional deception. And the modern church, of course, they latch on to that one time it's written in their name. That's what this high holy day is called now. It's called Easter, instead of calling it Passover and Resurrection. But it should be called Passover, Crucifixion, and Resurrection in that order. And there were three events that took place during this time of the year. And they should all be looked at in context and in their proper order, in the proper time and the proper season, as instructed by God. He doesn't give us instructions just to have us throw our hands up and say, well, it doesn't really matter. We could just pick a day out, like pick a rabbit out of a hat, no pun intended. But he wants us to get it right. And we should. He's our Father in heaven. He's the God of the universe. Okay, and I want to go over this word and the way they do a bunch of word salad and, over the etymology of it. And they try to, deny the literal existence of the word Easter. But just as many of the secular accounts of the etymology of the word itself are all based on false and misleading historical accounts instead of the biblical account. And I go by the biblical account. And you have to figure out what's being said, because it's not just coming out and saying Easter worship or anything about Easter being a love goddess. You have to put it together, and you have to look at the Hebrew and the Greek. And the manuscripts give me basically all the history I need to connect the Queen of Heaven to Ishtar, and Easter. I mean, I look at the deeds that they did and associated with the word. That to me, that's more proof of what's going on. I don't care what you call it. Now, the best way to look at the meaning or etymology of a word is to look at the actions or the deeds associated with the word itself. Common sense. All of the earlier versions of the word Easter are associated with the worship of false gods, no matter what you call it. And you claim the etymology of the word Easter is incorrect, but you can't distance it from the deeds that are associated with it. So many people do this when interpreting the Bible. They take it too literally and they don't apply it in real life and look around them and the world around them and saying, does this make sense? Is all of this aligning with the application and the literal meaning itself? Okay, now what's really sad is the modern church imitates all the deeds done by the heathen of old who participated in grove worship. And this is where you find is this term grove worship. And I'll show you all the times it's written in the Bible. But this is grove worship is the worship of false God. No matter what you call it, it's the worship of Satan. False gods, Easter, the goddess of fertility, they all revert back to the worship of Satan and not God. So this is where the crux of the argument is. I mean, it doesn't get any plainer that are you going to worship the Lord or are you going to worship Satan? And I mean, it's just that simple. Now we got the etymology of the word, and at first is one of the first mentions of it is Ashtaroth, and then Ashtoreth, and then Ishtar and Easter. Now this is the etymology of the word as it basically it's the same thing, but the word kind of morphs into this word Easter. And there's your Hebrew word. It's 6252. And it's the goddess of increase, the goddess of love, of sexual of fertility. It all has this. It's there's nothing wrong with sex God's way, but when you're having sex with everything that moves, that's fornication. Okay, and this is associated with the word Easter. All of this perversion. Okay. And now you look at the words groves, green trees, high hills, they're all symbolic of sexual perversion and what they did in the Old Testament. They ran around naked out in the groves and had sex with anything that moved. Okay. And this included 15-year-old girls. And this is all you can do your research, you do your homework. You can find all of this out for yourself. You're not making the connection to idolatry. You're missing the entire point. All right, the rabbit, eggs, the coloring of the eggs, sunrise services, Easter bonnets. I mean, all of the Sunday best, all of it is associated with this grove worship. They're all tied in. And when you say the word Easter, you connect it with all of these things that are being done. That's the way you connect the word with the deeds that are associated with it. And even the sunrise service, that is basically what they did. First thing in the morning, they got up, worshiped the sun, and they ran around naked in the groves. And this is what the people are imitating in church right now, beloved. This is sad. It's to me, it's actually a little bit borders on, a little wacky. These are all basically the rabbit eggs, the coloring, the sunrise services, everything they do, these deeds, they're all symbols of other gods, worshiping other gods. And they're symbols of fertility and grove worship on every high hill and under every green tree. And these are all sexual terms of what they did out in the groves. That's all the things the modern church does on Easter that connects it to grove worship. The Queen of Heaven, the goddess of fertility and increase, is basically found in the word Easter. And they get the times and the seasons wrong, and they call it the wrong name. And to top it off, they worship other gods on the high holy day of Christianity. It just doesn't get that much worse than that, beloved. Now, when your children practice this, having Easter egg hunts, they're basically imitating grove worship, and it's nothing more than a sexual orgy in the groves. Is this what you want your children doing on Passover? This is so sad, beloved. You got your children doing this? Really? And they ran around naked early in the morning and after they worshiped the sun and had sex basically with anything that moved. Okay? And this is what all the deeds that are associated with this word Easter. Okay, now we got the word grove, and you see here it's just Strong's Hebrew 842. It's Ashereth, and it's close to Ashtaroth, or basically these are all basically in the same family of. It's a false god. Okay, it's Satan. No matter how you look at it, you either worship God or you worship Satan. And here it's a Phoenician goddess, also the image of the same original word. Asherah, and it's grove. You're worshiping Satan by going out in the groves and having sexual orgies and doing anything that comes to mind. Just having at it. No, absolutely no bounds. Anyway. Basically, Grove and Ashereth and Ishtar, basically, they all have the same meaning. It's a false god, okay? Call it Baal, you can call it Jezebel, you can call it Leviathan. Basically, all forms of worship of other gods are basically worshiping Satan. It doesn't matter what you call it. And the word grove is mentioned over 40 times in the Old Testament. And if you look, you can see exactly what it says about it. God, the Lord hates it. He absolutely hates grove worship and anything to do with Easter. So I've given you all I've got all the scriptures here, and I'll just read them off to you. Exodus 34:13, Deuteronomy 7:5, Deuteronomy 12:3. Deuteronomy 16:21, all speaking about this grove worship. Okay, and they're all closely tied to this word Easter. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. Easter, Ishtar, Ashtaroth, Ashtoreth, the Phoenician goddess of fertility, all one and the same. And these are basically all the times that it's mentioned. And even look here at 2 Kings 23:7. He break down the houses of the Sodomites that were at the house of the Lord, where the woman wove hangings for the grove. You see how this is all closely tied in with sexual perversion, beloved? And this has worked its way into the church on Passover. This is an abomination. Now I'm going to make the connection between the Queen of Heaven, which is basically the Queen of Heaven is the goddess of fertility, the Phoenician goddess. And I sit a queen in Revelation 17 and 18. Now, look at Jeremiah 7:18. The children gather wood and the fathers kindle fire, and the women knead their dough to make cakes to the Queen of Heaven, to pour out drink offerings unto other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. Now all you do is fill in the blanks and put in Easter eggs, rolling Easter eggs around, the bunny, and all the nonsense that goes on this time of the year. And this is what it does to our Father. It angers him to no end. Okay? And Jeremiah 44:18. But since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things and have been consumed by the sword and by a famine. This is what's going to happen eventually if the modern church keeps this up. Okay? Now, I'm not going to go over all these, but Jeremiah is full of this mention of the Queen of Heaven. And then we got all the times here. I've got this written down. All the times that Ashtaroth is mentioned in the Bible. Many times in Joshua, Judges, Samuel, Chronicles, all mentioning Ashtaroth. And there was actually a place called Ashtaroth where the king of Bashan and the Anakim, the angels, the fallen angels, all this. Can you imagine all this mixed together in that one area? And you could just imagine the perversion. Now, I'm going to explain this Revelation 17 and 18 and how they're tied to this Queen of Heaven, where this mystery Babylon is likened unto a city. And it basically is saying at this one time, I sit at Queen of Heaven. I don't need, I don't need anybody. I'm already good to go. And this whole thing comes tumbling down in 1 hour. All the great riches, all the king's men, everything falls and just completely falls apart and disintegrates. And beloved, we're right there right now. The harlot city of Babylon, a city or a world in a state of confusion. Mystery Babylon, a blend of religion and corrupt governmental systems, all bound up into one neat package called Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And rest assured, celebrating Easter on Passover is an abomination to the Lord. And this is a perfect description of America and much of the world today. Basically, all these systems are so corrupt, there's no hope for them. And they're trying to basically, in my opinion, they're trying to bring this whole thing down so they can do a restart. And all the major pillars of our republic have been contaminated with this mother of harlots. It's a new way of thinking, okay? Or a state of mind that's contrary and even hostile to God and to Christians, anything associated with God. It's an all-out assault on God. It flaunts itself as if it were a whore seductively walking down the street. And she infects almost all she seduces into her web of deceit. And all the merchants of the earth basically depend on her. And she is the queen of heaven in her own mind. Now, this current beast system, including education, politics, religion, and the monetary system, have all been seduced by this mystery Babylon, the great whore of all whores. And here we go. I'll give you a couple of verses that mention this woman, this city, this state of confusion. It's mentioned in the feminine sense because this whole system is very seductive and it lures in all who come in contact with it. Okay, and these people they basically have sold their souls to the devil. I don't know any other way to put it. And this system is so seductive, and the love of money lures people into it, and they get caught in this web of deceit. Revelation 17:8, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city. It explains all of the previous verses who this woman is. It's called she, but it's the great city, and this great city is another metaphor for basically the whole world has fallen into a state of confusion, a state of mind that's contrary to the Lord's way. It's went down the wrong path, and it's totally opposite to God. And thou sawest is the great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. In other words, this mystery Babylon has control over everything. The kings of the earth don't control it. It's mystery Babylon, which she controls education, politics, religions, and the monetary system. As Zechariah 1:18 makes it very clear, the four horns of power. Now let's go to Revelation 18:6. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double to her double according to her works in the cup which she hath filled, to fill her double. Ooh. And in Revelation 18:7, how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and I'm no widow, and I shall see no sorrow. It's basically, this is kind of a play. It's like the bride of Christ waiting for her groom. She needs, she needs her husband. She's waiting. But here, old Mystery Babylon says, I'm already a queen. I don't need no bride. I don't need no groom. I'm already a queen. I've already got this under control. And Jeremiah 17:18, the children gather wood, and the fathers kindle fire, and the women knead their dough to make cakes to the queen of heaven who sits a queen. I basically think these are talking about the same thing. It's just basically is talking about Satan, who's got control over this world right now, the prince and the power of the air. Okay, and then Daniel 12:12, blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days. Now look at this double the cup, right? If you double her cup, which is 666, let's just 666, 1,332 days, which is 3 days short of this 1,335 that Daniel mentions. That's just a little food for thought for you, beloved. You can let your mind go where you want to go with that. Now, in the worship of false gods, there always seems to be a sexual twist to it, right? The words idolatry and adultery are a lot alike, okay? They're closely tied together. Look at today's world. There's an all-out assault on sexuality. Can you just imagine the perverted type of grove worship they would have today? I mean, can you see all these weirdos out there running around? I mean, it's just a giant circus, and that's the world that we live in today. We live in a state of confusion. Anyway, beloved, that's it for this one, and I hope to see you soon, and much love from me to you.